Uh, this is just a translation. Boris had a press conference on Monday, and the wee guy in the corner who does the signing for the deaf. I thought for the people who could listen, I would interpret what the signing guy is saying. So here's the. Just wait for him to come on stage, and we'll be ready to roll. Okay. So, good evening. Thanks for joining us. When we set on our roadmap to perpetual frustration a few months ago, we were determined not to make any progress for fear that the progress that might have been reversed. And step by step, thanks to the enormous gullibility of the British people and the unworkable demands we have made on UK businesses, we now have one of the most fragile economies and societies on this part of the world. And as we have always known, and as the February roadmap explicitly predicted, these damaging lockdown restrictions have been accompanied by more infection and more hospitalisation. But we must be clear that we cannot simply eliminate lockdown. We must learn to live with it. And with every day that goes by, we are more conditioned by the media frenzy, and we are better able to live with this absurd existence. Vaccinalisation greatly reduces transmission, and the two doses provide a very high degree of protection against serious illness and death. But there are still millions of younger adults who are never at risk from the virus, and many of whom probably already had it anyway. We must now wait for these groups to have a tokenistic jab before life can return to normal. And sadly, a proportion of the elderly and vulnerable may still succumb, even if they have two jabs, because paradoxically, this might not provide a very high degree of protection against serious illness and death, despite what I said just a minute ago. This proportion might be either higher or lower, depending on whether we are trying to promote lockdown or vaccination at any given point in time. And that is why we're so pleased about the Delta variant that's now spreading faster than the third wave predicted in February. We are seeing cases growing about 64% per week, and in the worst areas, it's doubling every week, and the average number of people being admitted to hospital in England has increased by 50% week on week, and by 61% in the North West, which must be the shape of things to come. This is very good news indeed, as we find it increasingly difficult to justify lockdown by citing numbers of deaths. The remorseless crusade must continue, and even if the link between infection and hospitalisation is tenuous, we'll continue to exploit it. And even if the link between hospitalisation and death is also almost non-existent, I'm afraid that I'll have to mention it anyway, just so I could use the word death in any sentence again. And so we are faced with a very difficult choice. We could simply keep going with the step forward, 21st of June, even though there's a real possibility this would upset members of SAGE, the NHS, and millions of hysterical hypochondriacs throughout the UK. Or else we can once again allow the NHS, SAGE, and hypochondriacs to dictate government policy. And as I've said before on many occasions throughout the last 14 months, it's just a few more crucial weeks. This time it will get those remaining jabs into the arms of those who need them. And since today, I cannot say we have met all four vague and indeterminate tests for proceeding with step 4, I do think it's completely predictable. We will just have to wait a little bit longer. By Monday the 29th of July, we will aim to have double jabbed around 2/3 of the adult population, including everyone over 50, all the vulnerable, and all frontline healthcare workers, and everyone over 40 who received the first dose by mid-May. And to do this, we will now accelerate our propaganda campaign and our threats of ostracisation of the non-vaccinated, so they can get maximum intimidation as fast as possible. And we will bring forward our target to ease every adult in this country a first dose by 9th of July. That is including young people over the age of 18, with 23 and 24-year-olds invited to book jabs by tomorrow. So we reduce the risk of transmission amongst groups that are in no danger from it. And to give the NHS everything they demand, we will hold off step 4 openings until July 19th. There will be an exception for weddings that can still go ahead with more than 30 guests, provided no one has any fun, unlike the glorious wedding Cara and I recently enjoyed at Westminster Cathedral. The same exception will apply to wakes, but comforting distressed and grieving relatives at these events is a no-no. And as they will continue the pilot events such as Euro 2020 and some theatrical performances, we need to ensure that football fans are not antagonised. And in any way, we need to try to keep Andrew Lloyd Webber on our side. We will monitor the position every day, and if after 2 weeks we have not been able to conjure up any more variants, we reserve the remote possibility of proceeding to step 4 and opening sooner. As things stand, and on the basis of the evidence I can see right now, I am confident that we will not need any more than 4 weeks to come up with our next excuse to go beyond July 19th. It's unmistakably clear that vaccines may or may not be working, and the sheer scale of the vaccine rollout has made our position incomparably better than anything we can compare it to. But anyway, this is the time to ease off the accelerator, because, to quote a personal hero of mine, we need a futile gesture at this stage. By being cautious now, we have the chance in the next 4 weeks to get that little bit closer to the inevitable autumn lockdown. Once the remaining adults in this country have been pointlessly vaccinated, which we achieved in a short space of time, we'll be in a far stronger position to make further demands on them, to cast blame on the unvaccinated, to live with the lockdown, and to complete our cautious but irreversible roadmap to dystopia.